Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. Can we talk about Transformers? Oh, baby, baby. Yes, hello. This is the Can We Talk About podcast, a podcast where we sit down and sit through a piece of pop culture history, but normally stay focused on one specific thing for seasons or series at a time. And all the, you know what we're doing. It happens to be a series of Might and Metal. It is actual 80s cartoon classic, The Transformers. I will do anything in order to be able to transform again. My name is Joe.
The bigger they are, the harder they... I'm Kristen.
And we are watching The Transformers Generation 1 via Tubi, which is a free streaming platform with intermittent commercials. Tubi, of course, has the broadcast order of Season 2 of Transformers. And Kristen, how long did it take you to find the Autobot Run when you were going through episodes and being like, how fucking far through the season is this stupid episode?
I was clicking through and I was like, did I miss it? So about that far.
It's like episode 26 in broadcast order.
Yeah, it's real deep in there.
Doing it like 7th.
I'm seeing Dinobot Island Part 1, Dinobot Island Part 2, and I'm like, man.
Desertion of the Dinobots, the Decepticon syndrome, all these things where you're just like, man, look at all these. We could be seeing these new characters, but no, we're going to do this instead in this episode animated by ACOM.
Maybe later in this season, I'll be happy we got all this shit out of the way early.
You know what? You're probably right.
That's what I'm hoping.
And Kristen, across these various streaming platforms that we have available to us here, have you been watching anything fun or would recommend?
I'm still playing a shitload of Animal Crossing. That's where I'm at. And I guess just on a base-related note, I'm thinking really hard about buying Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Ooh, how about that?
Because I don't know anything really about Final Fantasy VII, so I feel like that could be an enjoyable experience.
I've got all the normal beats of... I say normal beats, all the things that people talk about Final Fantasy VII about. Mm-hmm. Which is, I know Cloud Strife is a guy.
I know a lot of the characters' names. I know Sephiroth kills Aerith. Or is it Aerith? What is it now?
Is it Aerith this time? Because I know that in the PlayStation 1 era, it was Aeris.
I think it's Aerith. I don't know. See, that's how much I know about Final Fantasy VII. So I feel like, even though I know a lot of the big stuff that happens in that game, I could probably still be like, whoa, in my normal, JRPG loving ways.
Still be surprised by it, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe I'll actually go back and finish Final Fantasy 15, which I have had for maybe 3 years now.
I was not aware that you even had Final Fantasy 15. Kristen, did you know that Noctis is a playable character in Tekken 7?
I didn't. Did you know my friend Allison has a cat named Noctis?
Man, that guy is getting everywhere these days.
Right, fact for fact. There we go. You also sent me a thing a while ago. I'm surprised you didn't mention it, Joe. That something new is available on Tubi.
Oh, yes. For those of us with history with the Can We Talk About podcast, i.e. you and me.
Yep, us. And kind of Madeline, maybe.
A little series called Jim is on Tubi now.
Jim and the Holograms?
Jim and the Holograms.
Wow.
It disappeared off Netflix for a while, but it has returned with intermittent commercials, and I haven't checked to see if it's basically the same as what you get on Netflix. I would assume so, with
Shout Factory stuff.
Shout Factory stuff, terrible color-timed episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Transformers, we determined that the Transformers that they have is the Rhino DVDs, and I think Rhino, I didn't check if they had all 3 seasons of Gem. I think Rhino only released seasons 1 and 2 before Shout Factory got it, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Huh.
So if we ever want to go back and watch more Gem, we can do that. If we get so sick of Transformers, we gotta stop. You know what? The first couple of episodes of our podcast weren't that good anyway. Let's just do them again.
I also have Gem on DVD, don't forget, Kristen, so I could have watched it anytime I wanted.
Of course, that has nothing to do with me, who lives in a different state than you.
Very true. Very true. I decided, Kristen, to, just because I have Hulu, because I have the big Disney Plus package, let's watch What We Do in the Shadows. Why not?
Yeah, how was that?
That's fun. It's a fun series. I like how Taika Waititi and Jermaine show up in one episode playing the characters that they played in the movie. This week, Kristen, as I mentioned, we are looking at the Autobot Run, which is kind of weird because the titular Autobot Run lasts about 2 minutes.
Well, okay, here's the thing. They're not running, they're driving. So that's the first problem I have.
And there's also a stunt spectacular that goes terribly before the Decepticons show up.
So really it's a mercy that things kind of take a different turn at a point there. But we'll talk about it.
Yeah, the rest of the episode is basically robot fights and giant crushers, so it's time for the Autobot Run and get running! the Autobot Run, written by Donald F. Glut, which means, Kristen, this episode will now be called SOS Transfixed.
Whoa, love it. Is that supposed to be like a play on Cannonball Run?
I believe so, but Cannonball Run... No, I get Cannonball Run and Smokey and the Bandit confused a lot for some reason. I think because they're both Burt Reynolds movies. I don't know what Cannonball Run is about. Smokey and the Bandit is about Burt Reynolds guiding a truck of contraband across, like, several state lines, I believe.
Race teams have gathered in Connecticut to start a cross-country car race.
So Death Race 2000, except not fun and B-movie.
Yep, that's Burt Reynolds, all right. Yeah, it's basically just Death Race.
Okay. But Death Race 2000, obviously better, of course.
Of course. It improved upon the formula. Max speed, 55 miles an hour. Whoa. Farrah Fawcett is also in it. And Sammy Davis Jr.
There we go. Cannonball Run, everybody. If you didn't know, now you know.
That was my enthusiastic report. You're welcome.
We started a racetrack, Kristen, where we have Spike and Blue Jacket Chip Chase.
Whoa.
The new fall fashion by Tiger Beat Chip Chase here.
Am I crazy or did he dye his hair? It looks different.
Well, Kristen, as I stated, this is one of the episodes that was done by ACOM, and they have a spotty history with animation.
So he did dye his hair.
And it's possible that whatever color reference they had for Chip, they decided to give him a blue jacket and slightly brighter brown hair.
See, he looked a little bit too much like Spike's brother for me this episode. But hey, I'm always happy to see a Chip Chase.
Now, for some reason, Chip and Spike are not with the normal fans in the stands. They are standing directly next to the stands.
Chip Chase knows people. So they're standing in the safest spot, as we know from the Gem Indy 500 episode, taking pictures like Rio.
They're watching Gem win the Indy 500 here, and Chip goes, man, this is great, but you know what would be even better is if the Autobots were involved.
I need less of a human factor. Can we depersonalize this a little bit?
And immediately the way that they sell this is, it's a big thing for charity we'll do. And Spike is kind of like, we'll see if Optimus goes for it, I guess.
So my favorite thing I noticed is that at this point, well, big race for charity. Cool, that sounds like, all right, they have an idea. They can roll with that. They can develop that. They do this eventually on the same day, it seems like.
Yeah, you'd think that they'd like call a charity, like, you know, hey, is this
some organizing with the stadium?
Is this Mechanics of Utah? Would you like to have a charity race about you?
Do you want to be a sponsor? Luckily, all those people were already at the stadium, so they just charged them double.
Bumblebee arrives to pick them up here, and things get awkward for a second when he asks if they're ready to roll.
I don't know why the writers don't notice these things if we do. Are we bad people?
Chip is such a nice person that he doesn't acknowledge it, and they all get into Bumblebee and get out of there anyway.
Spike does say to Bumblebee, how would you feel about racing, little Volkswagen? And he's like, hey, if it's under the speed limit, cool.
And Kristen, this is one episode after Bumblebee. Maybe Bumblebee learned his lesson after getting stopped by the cops in the last episode.
They put the fear of the fuzz into him.
We see Laserbeak following because Laserbeak always seems to be wherever.
You know what? Cool and good. I love that guy.
We get a transition to the Decepticons here, who are in a Wild West city?
I thought they were going to explain what they were doing there, or where they were, or anything like that. My brain just immediately was like, oh, they're probably like, a movie set or something, I don't know.
No, it's a literal Wild West ghost town with literal Wild West ghost town music that plays after the transition here.
I guess, did they run out of other ideas for environments? Is the ravine just not cutting it anymore?
I mean, to be fair, Kristen, this is the whole, we complain about the holograms know it's the Misfits, the holograms don't know it's the Misfits. We complain when they're at the ravine, we complain when they're not at the ravine.
No, Joe, I'm not complaining about whether or not they're at the ravine. I'm complaining about them choosing to do a Wild West ghost town as the location that they have chosen to diversify with. Like, put them at a river or something. We've only had like one or two of those.
I mean, the Immobilizer was at a river last episode, Kristen, so...
Then do it again! What the fuck do I care?
The Constructicons are working on something called a Transfixatron here, which there's a lot of Otrons in this episode, Kristen, and...
Some would say too many.
I forget if it's Donald F. Glut who had said that, you know, it's the one draft and then it's over, but there's a lot of things that feel like he turned in the first draft where there were clear lines that were either errors or things that he wanted to possibly improve on the second draft, and Hasbro went, do it! Send it out!
Isn't it possible at this point that we can assume that was the case with every writer?
I would assume, but it's just I always like going back to that story because we can use it to hand wave a lot of lazy things.
It just feels right.
The Constructicons finish up the Transfixatron here when Laserbeak arrives and relays the half of a plan. The exact audio of Chip going, "It'll be a race for charity," and Spike going, maybe.
So what information we get out of this is there is going to be a set point in time, apparently in the very near future, where the Autobots are all going to be in vehicle mode.
Conveniently, yes, because...
That works really well with the plan that we're doing right now.
Well, we don't know what the Transfixatron does just yet. Megatron says, look, I'll act on that half of a plan later. I gotta try this thing out. We gotta show the kids what the Transfixatron does.
Of course. Is it sad that still every single time I see Laserbeak pop into Soundwave's chest and then him hit play, part of me wants him to be like, "There's gonna be a race!"
Like actual... That would be nice if he talked like with a parrot voice, like starting with...
Yeah.
And then just talking.
Laserbeak, pretty girl, pretty girl.
So Starscream is here being Starscream, complaining about how much of a fucking waste of time the Transfixatron is. And Kristen, if I were leading the Decepticons, we would already be bashing the Autobots in the back of their heads with a lead pipe. How does that sound?
Apparently Starscream heard that the Autobots were doing something and is just aghast, thinking that maybe they want to finish what they're doing before just skipping town and being like, let's go dunk on the Autobots, actually.
He says that this idiotic contraption won't even work, and then Megatron's like, okay, well, now you're going to be the test subject, buddy boy. Get transforming.
So apparently Starscream doesn't even know what it's going to do, so that makes this extra scary.
He wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, he wasn't listening at all, and Megatron says, what's a test without a guinea pigatron?
Once again, a line that was clearly a first draft line.
All of these are just rides at Knoebels, right?
The guinea pigatron, of course, yes.
And the Transfixatron.
Right next to the Cosmotron.
Exactly.
Starscream takes to the skies here, and when he is hit with the Transfixatron, he's like, nothing happened. What a fucking... Wow, we spent all this time out here in the Wild West ghost town when we could have been role-playing cool Wild West shenanigans.
And wow, turns out Starscream was right again. Woo!
And Megatron's like, okay, all right, Starscream. Well, why don't you transform and come back down and say it to my face, motherfucker, see what happens.
And Starscream's like, I can't!
So that's what the Transfixatron does, Kristen. It locks you in whatever mode you're in.
Or you say that.
Or it does something else that's incredibly stupid, but we'll get there.
What a very interesting assumption you've made here at the beginning of the episode.
Starscream starts doing some wonderful Starscream begging here. Like, he puts on his best, like, no, come on, dude, voice.
I mean, like, does it hurt or something to be a jet, or is he just like, I was so handsome, put me back?
Perhaps I should leave you as a jet plane forever.
And Starscream screams and cries a little bit more. And even Megatron's like, okay, that's quite enough.
Megatron, comments on how whiny Starscream is being here, and then untransfixes him.
So then, that part of the plan is done and seems to be working all right, and then Megatron is like, okay, Constructicons, build the other next thing. And then we see some construction equipment working in ways construction equipment doesn't, as is standard.
Yeah, Hook, the one that sticks with me is Hook jams his hook into the ground and, like, crane games a giant rock out of the ground.
Yeah, just hoists up, like, a planter's worth of rock, and then just tosses it in the back of whatever his name is.
Long Haul?
I was gonna say that too, but I was like, no, it's someone else.
And then we get transition 2. We start in explanation res here, Kristen, which happens a few times in this episode. Spike just having the last line of what he was describing, so we kind of know where we stand with everything.
So then the race would be for charity. What do you think?
And Optimus, well, he likes that it's for a good cause.
You know, charity.
And apparently, Kristen, they've been in quarantine too because they've been very inactive.
Everyone's bored these days.
Ironhide comments that he needs some action here or he's going to rust out. Kristen, the man is old.
He's annoying in this episode.
Ironhide is weird in this episode. He has so many lines that are not Ironhide-y.
Yeah. Is now a good time to also talk about the multiple severe scaling issues in this episode? Is Optimus supposed to be, like, way bigger than everyone else? Because I didn't think so.
He's supposed to be, I think, a head taller than most of the cars.
But, like, all the non-mini-bots are close to the same size, right?
It should be that I believe Optimus is a little taller than the cars, and the cars are a little bit taller than the mini-bots, and I think that's how that's supposed to go.
In this episode, it's like Skyfire-sized Optimus, kind of normal-sized cars, and then, like, itty-bitty mini-bots.
Again, a weird animation studio, maybe they took it a little too literally.
They looked at the storyboards and they were like, what scale? Never mind, just do it.
Finally, Kristen here, Sunstreaker gets a line where you get I feel like Sunstreaker has had lines before, but he's either been a car or like in the middle of motion, so you can actually just the camera, he's like right in the left of the frame, he's like, you can see 3/4 of him.
They showed me a bunch of people I haven't recognized in a while.
I was gonna say, did you know who Sunstreaker was?
No, but he was pumped. I got confused next because next we see Huffer, who is like, ugh, I don't want, that sounds like too much work, I don't want to do that. And in my brain I was like, well, this person's complaining, is that Gears? But it's clearly not Gears. I could at least recognize that is not Gears at all visually.
I think Gears and Huffer do have kind of similar characterization. Gears is more a complainer pants, and Huffer is, I don't want to say an ass. I mean, they're both assholes, I guess, but Huffer is a naysayer, we'll say.
And he has a name. Shut up. And he has a weird car bumper wrapped around his head.
And he's got smokestack arms that are really weird too.
I mean, who among us does not?
Braun immediately assigns Huffer guard duty because of this, which is weird because Braun also stays and does not participate in the Autobot Run.
He sees his chance. He's like, ooh, I don't want to go either, so yes. And Ratchet and Wheeljack, very much on the same wavelength, are like, cool, we will keep you company.
Wheeljack is at least like a racing car. He
I know,
has a chance
I was
to win.
thinking about that.
Huffer is a fucking little semi-cab. Braun is a Jeep, and Hound doesn't do very well either in the Autobot Run. But
You say chance to win as if this actually ends up mattering, which is too bad. The cartoon is like, ooh, we made a competition, but then actually, no.
We will get there.
I know.
So, transform and roll for the show here. And Kristen, we get a weird thing in this episode.
Oh, we're going now!
We get a weird thing in this episode, not just that they're going to go now, but the fact
You
that...
think Chip and Spike were like, what now? Okay! We're going now.
But ACOM decided to just not play the full transforming noise whenever people transform. They just kind of did half of it, or like reversed it, or just played various sections of it.
Instead of a goo goo, we just get a goo goo.
Pretty much, yeah. We get a wipe here, amazingly, instead of a transition. And we're already at the racetrack here as we pan over the stands and the megaphone, the speakers where the guy, the master of ceremonies, the master of race-ceremonies, I guess, is speaking here.
Sure.
We pan over the stands here as the guy explains, hey, take a look at the raceway. It's our special celebrity guests, the sensational Autobots. And
Very last-minute change to the programming.
I had to pause the video, Kristen, because some guy just goes, hey, where are their cars?
And Chip thinks that's very funny. Not in quite the mean way.
Chip is much more respectful about it than I was, what the fuck? What is this dumbass doing here?
Some people just don't watch the news, I guess.
Some people are in for a surprise, is how Chip puts it.
So Optimus has everyone transform again. Here we go.
I'm kind of sad that we didn't go back to that guy. I was just like, oh!
That's where the cars were!
So the Autobot Run is on here, and it just starts, and at this point I was like, oh wow, already? Okay.
Here we go. They didn't have to do a pace lap or whatever.
No, they just were no rolling start. It's not Daytona, unfortunately.
Nah.
Ironhide calls Trailbreaker a slowbie, and I enjoy Trailbreaker's reaction to this, which is, buddy, you're not breaking the sound barrier either here.
Yeah, he was just the closest person that he could talk shit to, I guess.
And I wrote, Kristen, it's now that I notice Bumblebee is not in this race, which means he and Huffer are probably going to be the main plot characters, which isn't exactly true because Huffer definitely isn't, but Bumblebee definitely is.
Bumblebee definitely sort of is. Wheeljack gets to do a lot more than you would expect.
This is almost more of a Wheeljack episode than the Immobilizer.
I love it. Give it to me.
So Sunstreaker starts pulling ahead of everyone here, and this seems to get more people in the spirit of things because F1 car Mirage is like, well, fuck, if it's for charity, I may as well show off.
I can go pretty fast, so let's go.
Jazz then also takes this challenge here, and for some reason Jazz is almost as fast as Mirage. I mean, again, he's also a racing car, so I guess it makes sense.
We start to see a little hint of competition brewing. Whoa. Intrigue. Interest.
At the Autobot 500.
And it amounts to nothing.
Why was this episode not called Intrigue at the Autobot 500?
I wonder, Joe. How about you ask that question again and listen to how stupid you sound?
Transition 3 happens here as I started to get very nervous when this happened, Kristen, because we get 2 transitions within the span of 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
As we check in with the Constructicons who are still building the mysterious second machine, and then transition 4.
I think they complain a little bit about not being in the main strike group, but they're mostly like, eh. Oh my god, I just remembered something too. I just wanted to talk about the Transfixicon. So it is kind of like a little satellite ball on top of like a tripod.
Oh yeah, it's like a mounted gun.
Yes.
But when Megatron uses it, he picks it up with the mount.
That was what I was going to say. He just picks it up and tilts it backwards. And they don't do that again for the rest of the episode. It was just really funny.
Well, Kristen, when Skywarp shows up here a little later, he's like at a...
My other question was going to be, assuming that is a tripod of some sort, why didn't they just screw that part off?
Exactly, but...
for Skywarp's bit, but whatever.
Jazz and Mirage seem to be leading the pack here, which is weird because it looked like Sunstreaker was like miles ahead of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Considering he's supposed to be a Lamborghini Countach, I assume he's more style than substance.
You say Optimus is right behind them. When we get like an aerial shot of this later, Optimus is in the straight up back. Which I assume is because it's they were like, oh fuck, where do we put the really long guy?
Do they not have art of Optimus in his truck mode without a trailer? Like, why is he
definitely
racing?
Had his trailer.
Why is he racing with a trailer?
Show off.
He doesn't want to win, Kristen, because he's the leader. He could, the trailer. It's like the bells on Kenpachi's hair.
Why weren't the Dinobots invited?
we played Transformers Devastation, Kristen. You saw that Grimlock has to run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Autobot Run. Nice Bleach reference, by the way.
I couldn't think of the intentionally holding my power back trope quickly enough.
The Princess Bride, Joe.
Oh, god damn it.
Wow.
So Skywarp blips out of nowhere here, which is... I don't think it stated that this is the last time that we see Skywarp teleporting, like using his teleportation ability. Well, I know we see it later in the episode. I mean, this episode is the last time we see it, because I know we don't see it often.
Seems a little bit like a waste, but I'm a little bit disgusted now.
And he has the Transfixitron here, with tripod intact, by the way, and he's... like flying at a it looks like they turned his animation cell 90 degrees so he's faced downward.
I don't really see how this is aerodynamic. I'm not sure why he wasn't just a jet and it was like strapped to his undercarriage or something. But I mean, if we complain about every little thing, we're going to be here forever.
So Kristen, Mirage has a thing that detects the Decepticons that we see later.
Uh-huh.
Why was he not able to detect Skywarp?
Maybe it's because he was too excited for the race.
Maybe he was almost winning and he's just like, no, I need to win. I don't care about the Decepticons right now.
Gotta focus. Need all functions, making speed more.
So when we see the shot of all the Autobots getting blasted by the Transfixitron here, it is to note that Cliffjumper is in the back.
Joe, I was listening to Trader when it got posted, and I am disgusted with myself for, in the actual episode, not making the joke cliff jumping to conclusions.
To be fair, I didn't make it either, so...
I did in the episode notes when I was writing them. I was like, this is very funny. And then I was like, just really, really disappointed that I didn't say it out loud, because we had so many good setups for it.
That is a very good joke. I'm sad I didn't think of it. Chip, Spike, and Bumblebee are watching the race from the side of the stands again, as we stated. And
just sit down like normal people.
They seem to notice that there's a big, waft of purple energy that goes over all the Autobots here.
A big fart gas cloud.
And Spike goes, what is that giant purple fart gas cloud? And for some reason, Bumblebee is trying to explain it away, sounding almost as if he's in on the plan here. Where he's like, oh, it's energy evaporation from all the speed. Maybe. I hope.
So he's really certain about this.
Skywarp teleports back to tell Megatron of the success here, and weirdly, Kristen, this was noted on the Transformers Wiki.
We just talked about this.
Now the Autobots can no longer call themselves Transformers! Nobody calls them Transformers.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was last episode or the one before that, we just had this conversation where I said, don't they never call themselves Transformers?
We said, specifically enemy Autobots in Attack of the Autobots.
Very weird stuff.
Ironhide asks Trailbreaker, hey, did you feel something weird just now? And Trailbreaker thinks that he's making excuses because Trailbreaker pulled ahead of him at some point.
He's just starting to complain for when he loses.
The Autobots all start kicking up a bunch of dust. Mirage and Jazz say, oh, look, there's the finish line. Let's get some dust up for some reason.
Why is there dust on the car racetrack in the first place?
I don't know.
They're not all, like, drag racing out in the desert that they're directly next to.
Like, if it were asphalt, it would be smoke. Like, they would be doing something to intentionally have their tires run against the ground to produce smoke, which also seems...
I understand, like, dust on horse tracks because horses aren't running on hard surfaces because they have feet.
I don't know. But either way, this feels like Donald F. Glut was like, I'll put a winner later. Let's just say that they crossed the finish line, and the announcer is just like, hey, it's for charity, because...
Yeah, the winners are the fans.
Because all the dust covers the finish line.
I think Jazz won.
That would be nice. I think Sunstreaker was supposed to be like a million miles ahead of everybody else, but he was in third at one point when Mirage and Jazz were near the finish line, so...
To me, it looked like Jazz won.
And Kristen, that leads us right into the next part of the show, which is incredible car stunts!
So, are they adding this, like, to the schedule?
I'm assuming Sunstreaker drove over to the guy at the PA system and was like, okay, so once the race is over...
Bring out the ramp.
I'm gonna jump everybody.
And they were like, hey, that sounds great to me. Sunstreaker has everyone line up, and Mirage is like, wait a minute.
If you are going to do what I think you are going to do, you have boom glitches in your brain garage.
I don't even feel like I need to say anything for that one.
First draft.
Yep. Ironhide says, hey, let's try it out. And Chip's like, what's going on?
He's gonna do what now? Spike comments, he's trying to make Evel Knievel look like a kiddie car driver.
Whoa. I guess that ends up being more of a dunk on Sunstreaker in the end, because he doesn't quite make the jump.
Optimus even warns your streak, you're gonna have to back up. There's not enough road to get to 88 miles an hour here.
You go ahead and say the next part of your notes.
Where we're going, we don't need roads. And then he jumps and nearly crashes into Windcharger.
Yeah, he gets force field up so he doesn't land on top of his friends.
Luckily, Windcharger is right there to use his magnetic beam or whatever to move Sunstreaker aside and set him down and be like, well, you tried your best.
The crowd's like, whoa! Thrills, chills, and spills.
He jumped 5 cars. Wow!
That was almost a disaster.
Jazz says he's up for anything next year. This all feels like, again, we're in a first draft state. Donald F. Glut's like, okay, Sunstreaker failed to jump. What now?
What else would cars maybe plan on doing? A demolition derby? But they're like, I'm up for anything as long as we're not crashing into each other.
Oh no, the Decepticons are here! Wait a minute, no time for that!
Yep, nope.
The Decepticons just arrive. And Kristen, I don't know if you noticed, but when the Decepticons landed, Shockwave was with them.
I did not notice that. Man, someone really was confused.
Acom decided to just fill out the background of the Decepticons. He apparently shows up earlier when they're flying, I think, but I didn't notice that. I did notice when he's at the direct center of the frame, landed next to Soundwave.
That's extremely funny.
When the Decepticons land here, Optimus calls for, transform, ready for battle, whatever. But Kristen, they can't transform!
It doesn't work! And as usual, that's devastating.
Megatron explains what the Transfixatron does here, so the Autobots know that they need to get rid of it. He could have just said, aha, it's all part of my plan, and not, aha, we used this exact thing to beat you, haha.
Would it kill him to roll up once in a while and be like, this is incredibly convenient, I had nothing to do with it, anyway I'm gonna feed you to a weird metal sarlacc now?
Megatron then asks the humans in the stands nicely to leave before firing I-beams, which actually gets them to leave.
It's like, Final Destination. Whichever one starts in the racetrack and all the people die. I mean, all the people die is the start to every Final Destination movie.
Oh yeah, that's how that goes as far as I know.
Have you seen that, Joe? The Final Destination movies are very good.
I have not seen any of the Final Destination
They're
movies.
cheesy as hell. Most of them are totally serviceable on their own, and then it's like the second last one is kind of like, ugh, man, this is really losing momentum the way that horror movie sequels do. And then the last one, The Final Destination, is the best.
The Final Destination.
The race car one was also in 3D, so you get a lot of really
cheesy
stupid
3D things.
shots. Yeah, dumb stuff. You should watch those movies. They're good fun.
But now, Kristen, it's time for the total destruction of the Autobots as Segment 1 ends. I noticed, Kristen, Segment 1 ends nearly halfway into the episode.
I got confused because I was like, wait a minute, where are we in this episode right now? Because I guess in my mind, we get a fade out. I've been watching for 12 minutes at this point. I think to myself, wait. How much episode's left?
Segment 2 starts with the Autobots deciding to just drive. Hey, we may be stuck in car form, but at least we can attack.
Yeah, that doesn't really pan out for them.
No, Megatron starts blowing out tires, and things happen, like Thundercracker starts using his flamethrowers that to, like, overheat their engines and shit, which I guess works.
Sure. Bumblebee transforms and says to Spike and Chip, "Come on, we gotta go!"
We're gonna leave before he notices!
So they can go back to base and see everyone else who is not Transfixicon.
I realized here I almost was going to say my next notes that Skywarp is ordered to finish the job, but then I realized, no, that's Soundwave. Oh, wait. I can't use SW as shorthand for the Decepticons because they have Skywarp, Soundwave, and Shockwave.
Yeah. I was going to say normally that works, but Shockwave is there. But no, it doesn't actually normally work.
I can't say Sky either because, well, I mean, I'm not going to mistake Skywarp for Skyfire, I don't think,
No.
but...
You can find some new shorthand, but God knows we have plenty of time to figure this all out.
Also, I can't use SS for Starscream because it could be Sunstreaker.
You call him Scream anyway.
I do. I changed it to Scream, and I changed Sunstreaker to Streak at a certain point.
There you go. See? Very interesting insight into the notes you write.
So Skywarp is ordered to finish the job here, which has him firing on the Autobots, which fucks with their communication, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Apparently Soundwave's gun can do that, or he's really good at aiming.
I mean, he's a telecommunications expert, espionage expert. Sure, he can fuck with their radios. Why not? That's one of the things I have the least problems with in this episode.
Now, take them away, as the Autobots are corralled. They drive to the Wild West town. Kristen, how far away is it?
They're herded out like sheep.
Transition 5 here. Spike is again finishing up the explanation to Huffer.
And that's what happened.
I knew the race would be a bad idea, but does anyone listen to me? No!
Braun says, "Shut up!"
He's going to kick Huffer in the teeth, or some robotic approximation of the teeth, which makes Bumblebee very concerned.
He doesn't say anything, he just starts to cry a little bit.
Super Genius Bichon and Chip Chase decides to do what the Autobots have not done so far, and goes right over to Teletran, and is just like, okay, let's see if Teletran can help us. Because normally it can.
We're not out of options yet. Let's at least try our biggest asset.
So he feeds in, I believe, the transforming data into Teletran, like what happens when a transformer transforms. And we see just flashing images on the screen of a robot that does not exist, a red car that I don't think is Asswipe, just a red car. Could be Windcharger, didn't look that closely. And the weird metal sarlacc that Megatron builds that we have not seen yet.
So thank God this makes sense to Wheeljack, because he's like right on it. According to all those figures, the only thing that can prevent transformation is some sort of transfixion ray.
As if that's the scientific term for it.
I guess it is. Either that or he's a real good guesser.
All he needs to do is just create an ultra-frequency ray to balance it out. Of course, Kristen, of course.
Sure, why not?
It's that easy.
We're more than halfway through the episode, so we gotta hurry up a little bit.
Transition 6 here, as we're back at the Wild West town. Megatron's gloating. Oh, the ironing. Oh, you can't transform on your Transformers. Oh, the mighty Megatron.
So the mysterious second device is done, and Megatron decides to give them a demonstration of their fates, which is too bad, because he probably could have killed, like, maybe 3 of them if he hadn't done this.
Why not demonstrate on one of the Autobots?
Yeah, isn't that a scarier demonstration? Amateur.
We also get another weirdly un-Ironhidey line where he goes, oh, get on with it.
Just kill me already, fucking coward.
Longhaul turns on the device here. It's got a long robot arm with a pincher on the end, kind of like the big robot arms in Transformers Devastation, sort of.
They bring a Decepticon shell over.
Which is like it looks like a missile. I don't know what exactly it is. It's just, he calls it the Decepticon shell.
It's like corpse of one of their friends, I guess. I don't know.
And Megatron created his own robotic sarlacc pit that is also about 5 feet above the ground. So Kristen, what's the opposite of a pit? A peak? A sarlacc peak?
I guess so, yeah. A Sarlacc mountain out of a molehill.
In the middle of a Wild West town.
I want to point out really quick, I didn't look at your notes before I also called it a robot sarlacc pit earlier. So, we're just on the same page.
We see Hound firing a hologram.
It cuts away from it really fast. What we just see is, here's Hound close up in the frame, and we see his gun go pew.
It goes pew, pew, pew. And we find out that Hound is able to project holograms. He knew the general direction of the arc, or the exact direction of the arc, and was able to broadcast it through a volcano.
Okay, I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe he can send holograms to Teletran.
All right, that works. Okay.
I'll take that.
I can work with that, but the thing is the cartoon did not say that.
No, that's me making some assumptions because I need to see the good in the world or I'm just going to give up one day.
Chip then uses Teletran, again, smartly, to pinpoint the location of where the hologram came from.
I thought he was doing a visual analysis of like, okay, well, there's only one Wild West town. Yeah, here it is.
And back at the Wild West town, Soundwave notices that there's some kind of energy spike from a hologram and blasts the gun off the back of Hound's Jeep.
Hound doesn't even go like, oh.
Hound doesn't have any lines, I don't think.
That's rough, buddy.
At this point, the Robo Sarlacc spits out a little tiny cube of metal, and Megatron goes, "How nice for the Autobots. Their remains will take up so little room on the scrap heap."
I don't know why I kind of assumed at first that he was going to say, we're going to turn you all into little bricks, and then we're going to take you back to Cybertron, so you won't be very big cargo.
We're going to cask of Amontillado Shockwave.
Well, that's not fair. He doesn't deserve that.
Megatron designates Ironhide as the first target here, even though it probably should have been Hound, because he was the one who was relaying messages.
Megatron's not paying attention, and he just doesn't like hearing Ironhide complain.
So Optimus capes up for his buddy here as all the Autobots circle the wagons around Ironhide to make sure that Megatron can't get him.
This goes great.
And by great, it's bad, because the Constructicons start just picking him up and whoop, just like...
Also, like, most of the Decepticons can fly. Guys?
And also, Starscream and Soundwave point their guns at the Autobots, and Megatron goes, no. I want the Constructicons to throw them around a bit.
It feels like he really just likes this, like, second level of delegation that he gets to the Insecticons and the Constructicons, where he's like, I care about you even less than I care about my main group.
Don't waste your ammo, boys. We got a bunch of big green machines to do stuff.
I'm thinking again about them ever talking about ammo and how angry it makes me.
The scale of the Constructicons is also a little fucky, as one of them... Again, Kristen, I have a very difficult problem. Unless a Constructicon is addressed by name, I really need to look at them to figure out who the fuck they are.
Welcome to my world.
And Jazz gets, tossed aside here. Ironhide is being pushed towards the machine and goes, well, it's been nice knowing you guys here. I guess this is the end.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't even try to drive away, it seems like.
We get back to the Ark here, and the ultra-high-frequency whatever ray was created as a grenade, which seems like it's a plot device, Kristen.
Yep. I mean, whatever. If they want to get a lot of people at once, sure, make it a big explosion.
Why not just make it a gun? Whatever. Maybe the grenade was the fastest one they could make, because Wheeljack even notes, like, man, I can't believe we got it done so quick.
All they really need to do is put the right kind of science inside of a thing and be like, we just need to make sure that at some point this explodes somewhere.
It should work to nullify the effects of the ray. And Huffer goes, but what if it doesn't? And Wheeljack even notes, well, then we're probably going to fuck him up even further. But not much we could do.
So Ratchet tries to say, we should probably test it. But actually, we don't have time for that.
They know where the Autobots are. They should go get them.
How are they planning on testing it anyway?
That's a very good question, Kristen.
Unless the test was going to be, let's set off this grenade and see if it kills us.
As soon as Huffer's like, but we're outnumbered, and Braun calls him Yellow, Ratchet's like, you know what? I don't want to be called Yellow. Let's go do it. I don't care that I was just saying we should test this. Let's go. Let's do it now.
Nobody calls me Yellow.
The Autobots then leave here as we get Transition 9, and Megatron laughs as Ironhide is held over the Robo Sarlacc here, and a piece of, like, a muffler falls into end segment 2.
So, I saw that. In my mind, I was like, was that like, did he shit himself out of fear?
Ironhide seemed, he was putting on a brave face, but he could have very well been shitting his Robo Pants, as it were.
Uh-huh. He seemed, to say later, to indicate that he knew that they would save him somehow. But I also like to think he was just ready to die.
Segment 3 starts here. Cliffjumper is wondering if there's anything that they could do, and then Optimus gets the idea to deploy Roller. Now, Kristen, Roller we last saw, I believe, in Attack of the Autobots, so fairly recently.
Yeah.
And then the first episode of the series, and this is the last time we're ever going to see Roller.
Oh. I mean, I don't care that much, but it is sad.
It rolls past Thundercracker and spooks him. He just goes,
Everyone, it's like a rat suddenly is like walking around their ankles and they're like, oh god, oh god, oh god.
Yeah, that's pretty much how Megatron treats it. He goes, stop that, Roller! Demolish it! As, like, all the Decepticons, just instead of paying attention to Ironhide, who could have been dropped in at this point, all of them go after the little skittery mouse bot.
So that ends up distracting them enough that Optimus, on his flat tire, drives into the sarlacc. So he does jostle Ironhide free.
Now, Kristen, this seems like a very ill-advised plan, because it very easily could have happened that Ironhide was just dropped into the sarlacc.
Thankfully, he had some weird reserved energy, just kinetic energy that was ready to pop him right out of the way.
And Ironhide, says, I always knew you were going to save me. Like, you were co-signed to your death, my man. You were ready for it.
Uh-huh. You were wearing a funeral outfit, your own black veil, hands folded, passing out prayer cards.
The other Autobot team of Wheeljack and company with the grenade start getting closer here. They arrive at this point, but the Decepticons just decide to ignore Roller and go after them because they're probably more important.
Probably. It's weird that they didn't come to that conclusion earlier, but
The jets can't hit Wheeljack at all.
Mm-hmm.
They are firing a bevy of missiles at him, and Wheeljack is just going straight line right for the touchdown here.
Those ears are really throwing off their aim, I guess.
And then, Kristen, we get the thing that I hate the most out of everything ever, which is when Skywarp is colored like Starscream again when he teleports.
I noticed this, and I love it. Skywarp, colored like Starscream, also talks in Skywarp's voice.
And he finally hits Wheeljack with a missile here, which has him toss the grenade. Spike catches the grenade and starts getting fired on. He should be dead immediately. He should be fried.
Mm-hmm.
And then Spike tosses it to Chip.
Mm-hmm.
And Kristen, we get here now. The Transformers Wiki would have you believe that the animation...
Some bullshit. Lies.
That the animation has Chip pushing himself up from his wheelchair to launch himself into the air to grab the grenade. But it happens very quickly, and Kristen, it just looks like Chip stands up.
It sure does look like Chip just stands up to catch that thing. Do you think Spike looked over and he was like, wait a minute.
What happened there?
What was going on over there?
And once again, we do not know what Chip's condition is. We do not know why he is in the wheelchair, but...
What I told you before we started recording is that if he's in a wheelchair, we can probably assume he shouldn't be using his legs at the very least.
Yes. Now, extreme circumstances here, potentially, where the fate of all life on Earth could... Whatever. Either way, even if Chip pushed himself up, you would think that the negative force generated by that would, send his wheelchair flying backward.
He does go for quite a spill not too long after this, thanks to his arch enemy, Ravage. Do you think Sparkplug isn't in this episode because of all the dangerous shit Spike's doing? He would just kill over from a heart attack?
Probably. They told him to go wash the Dinobots, and that got him away from everything.
Grimlock-like bath.
Long story short, Chip catches the grenade, and then he was, right at a cliffside, apparently, because he starts rolling himself down a cliff, which seems way more dangerous.
Apparently, they think that you being on an incline is the only way you can achieve speed of any kind while in a wheelchair.
I think it was just a way to have it so they didn't have to animate Chip's arms, which I did notice he does do. He does move with his arm. There are times where Chip will just literally roll into frame or is being pushed by someone else. But he has used his arms to move the wheelchair in this episode, albeit very briefly.
Whatever. So this is when his best friend Ravage comes back and does a big tackle.
Ravage is ejected here, and much like in the very first episode that we saw him, he is just immediately tackled by Ravage and knocked out of his chair.
The grenade flies from his hands, but it goes basically where they wanted it to go, so it explodes and it works.
Perfectly exactly as they mapped it out, Kristen.
Perfect. So, touchdown! Chip chase!
I'm transforming. I can see my true beauty emerging, says Riot. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, that's Sunstreaker.
You have to make it weird.
As we see all the Autobots transforming back to normal here, some of them... Weird animation error happens as some of them literally just pop out from the ether. We get, radio lines of, that's the wave happening, and it's superimposed over Chip and Spike at one point when it shouldn't be, and then also, instead of the cars being in the frame and then getting affected by it and then they transform, it is just, we see, a weird negative color image of the car and then they transform.
Apparently, the important thing to note is it exploded in a good enough spot that they were able to transform everyone back to normal.
Even though the grenade landed among, 6 people. Yes.
Don't worry.
And then Megatron's like, fuck this, Devastator, we gotta end the episode. Let's get Devastator out here.
It seemed like the episode could have been over here, but no. We have the Constructicons, so we have Devastator.
We gotta have a robot fight. Cliffjumper decides to try and take on Devastator by himself here.
He's got it. No problem.
And he gets eye lasered and then lifted by the eye lasers and thrown into a building as if the eye lasers had psionic properties.
Yeah, I guess so.
Devastator just manhandles the rest of the Autobots too. And Kristen, I wrote in my notes here, considering it took a complicated hologram plan and knocking him off the tallest building in New York City the previous times that we have seen Devastator, we're probably getting to the point where the solutions to fighting Devastator are going to get lamer and more contrived, and wouldn't you know it, I was right.
At some point, they're just going to, like, stretch a rope across the hallway he's walking down and trip him so he falls into pieces.
That seems so terrible. Like, Kristen, if you tripped and fell and then suddenly you broke into 6 different components that were just smaller aspects of your personality.
I mean, that would be alarming because I am a human.
That's true. You aren't. Devastator does not spend all of his time as Devastator.
No, I did hope when they were fighting Devastator that the plan would be to somehow get him to crumble into all of his other pieces, so that was pretty fun for me to watch.
Wheeljack goes and digs Cliffjumper out of the rubble that he was in, and they're like, what are we gonna do? And Kristen, sure enough, the Transfixatron is just sitting there, not doing anything, not being defended.
It's super easy to see because it's on that tripod.
And as they get up to the Transfixatron here, Wheeljack and Cliffjumper needs to get up on Wheeljack's shoulders, apparently.
I don't think it's that big, but okay.
It should not be that big, considering Skywarp was taller than it before. This is definitely a scaling issue.
This is making Wheeljack look like he's Bumblebee size or something. Whatever.
Wheeljack has a theory, Kristen, that the Transfixatron should cancel out the combined form of Devastator, which I think it should just lock him as Devastator if it's supposed to work as intended.
See, I was at least trying to think to myself, okay, maybe the logic is all of the Constructicons had to go into vehicle mode in order to become Devastator. Maybe he'll just fall apart, and they'll all be vehicles.
Maybe? I mean, the next time that we see...
That's not what happens.
That's not what happens, and the Constructicons are not transfixed next time we see them, unless they just built an untransfixer. I don't know. Whatever.
They just hit the reverse button.
They just hit the reverse button, and then, sure enough, Devastator just falls apart.
Yep.
And Megatron says, oh no, we're outnumbered, and Starscream, being very Starscream's like, let me guess, we retreat now, huh? That's what we're doing. Yeah. Let's go.
Okay, bye. Ironhide and Trailbreaker are... everyone's gathered around the Transfixatron, and they're like, you know what to do. And they just both punch it.
It falls to pieces as they punch it here, and Optimus says, hey, time to get back to base here for rest, relaxation, and Ratchet with a spanner in his hand. The other hand on his head. Oh, no, fuck. Repairs. When will I ever get a break from all this fucking carnage?
Ha 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 ha. Spike and Chip's heads bobble around, independent from their bodies. No other movement.
And Kristen, we came up on it very quickly, but that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. There was only one thing that I didn't get a chance to mention as we were going. At some point with the Transfixatron stuff, they do refer to someone being stuck in vehicular mode. I'm pretty sure it's just vehicle mode, isn't it?
They say both vehicular mode and root mode, referring to the robot state, which the Transformers wiki is pretty clear on believing that it was supposed to be robot mode, but it was a typo.
I like that logic. I also, anytime I hear the word vehicular, I just think manslaughter.
Yeah. Vehicle mode, it's not vehicle manslaughter, so...
No, it isn't.
Your mind does not go there. And that was the Autobot Run, Kristen. I believe this might be a contender for the most Saturday morning cartoon episode we've seen so far, considering the Autobots get pulled into a Decepticon plot. Like, at least with the Immobilizer, which is honestly a pretty similar episode to this one, and it was just the last episode. At least we had Carly and her getting all up in the Decepticons' business.
Yeah, the Autobots just kind of seem to be there by coincidence the entire time, though I do think what could have made this more Saturday morning cartoonish is if at the end, instead they were like, and that's the Autobot Run, and here's a trophy for Jazz. Woo, good job. And someone like won something. And then there was a song about doing your best and not cheating.
Here, the cheat, have a trophy. 3 trophies for Jazz!
Yeah!
Now's the point in the evening when we'll list off all of the fun contact things, where you can find us. You can follow us on the Twitter machine, at cwtapod. You can follow me at Octopus, which is AWKTAPUS.
You can follow me at Marina Kazam.
You can find us on the Apple Podcasts, on the SoundCloud, on the Stitcher Radio, or the YouTube even. leave a rating, give a review, do whatever you feel like. You can also reach us, cwtapod@gmail.com, where you can tell us all about the device that fires a high-frequency wave as a grenade, or why it's a grenade even, or better names than Transfixatron for something that locks you in place. A boot, maybe. A robot boot.
I want to see an Autobot with a boot on their car mode. And check out my solo podcast side project, ASMR Relationships, the podcast equivalent of listening to gossip that has nothing to do with you. You can find a link to it in the episode notes. Follow it on Twitter @Reddit Gossip. Give it a listen.
Kristen, next time we have what could be the first in a long line of episodes that we're just removing any semblance of realism. I mean, this is a show about transforming robot cars, but Atlantis. Arise.
Atlantis.
With the exclamation point and everything is the next episode here. And from the quick description that I read of it, it looks definitely like that it's some other sci-fi series invading Transformers.
I cannot even begin to imagine where we're going to go with this one, so that's pretty exciting.
For the Can We Talk About podcast, my name is Joe.
I'm Kristen.
And join us next time when Atlantis arises.
Atlantis is in the mail, and your mail is very wet.